thing when he suddenly stopped his van for no reason, got out and punched him in the chin, splitting it open. He then took a cinder block and threw it, damaging his van himself. He's accused of vandalizing a van. What you're witnessing is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in a California municipal court. Both parties have agreed to dismiss their court cases and have their dispute settled here in our forum, the People's Court.
Hello, I'm Doug Llewellyn, and welcome to the People's Court. This is the case of I'll knock your block off. Now, the plaintiff claims the defendant flagged him down, so he stopped. He says the guy alluded to beating him up, tried to hit him with a cinder block, but got his van instead, and then pulled out a gun. The defendant insists that the plaintiff was tearing down his street, then suddenly put on his brakes and backed up to where he was standing. He says the guy physically attacked him, then threw the cinder block, hitting his own van. Well, what went on that night? Let's see if we can find out now as the litigants tell their sides of this intriguing dispute to Judge Wapner.
I know you've been sworn, sir. I have read your complaint. You claim the defendant damaged your car?
Yes, sir.
What kind of car do you have?
A 1985 Dodge Caravan.
All right, tell me what happened.
Okay, that night I had left my friend's house. I was heading northbound on Conwell when the defendant and another party stepped out into the street and waved me in a fashion like this. So I stopped and I said, "What's the problem?" like that. And he goes, "I don't want to ever see you speeding down the street like this again." I go, "I wasn't speeding down the street." He goes, "Yeah, you were." He goes, "If I ever see you speeding down the street again, I'm going to blow your tires off your van." I said, "Oh, is that what you're going to do?" He goes, "Yeah." And then I go, "Well, I don't think you'll do that." And he goes, "Well, I'm going to do it." And he started pointing his finger in my face like this, going, "I'll kick your so-and-so." And I go, "Is that what you're going to do?" And at that time, he reached down and tried to open my car door, which I had locked at the time. And I told him, "Get away from my car." At that point, he kind of stepped back, so I grabbed the door and I threw the door open. And I go, "No, now what are you going to do?" And he looked at me and goes, "Well, you're kind of a big guy, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And he goes, "Well, come on."
Will you stop going back and forth and just tell me what he said and what you said? Just go, I go, you go, he goes. I know it's a figure of speech. It drives me up a wall.
Okay, well, then they both came at me in a...
Who's both of them?
Him and his witness. They both came at me, so I stood back and I stood in a defensive motion, and I go, "I wouldn't try anything if I was you." At that point, he went over to his brick wall around his house. He picked up the brick, and he came at me in a motion like this. So I backed off, and then instead of hitting me, he went up and he hit the side plate window on my van. At that point, I went at him, and he still had the block in front of his head, above his head, getting ready to hit me with it again. I hit him with the left into the chin, which his chin started bleeding. He took the block, he went like this, he looked at his hand, and after he looked at his hand, he...
At the time you hit him in the chin, had he ever struck you?
No, he hit my vehicle at that time.
How fast were you driving down the street?
Approximately probably 30 miles an hour.
25-mile zone?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It was late at night.
Was it the street well lit?
Yes, it is, sir. I also have a sketch here of how the street is laid out.
All right. Let me see the sketch. Who drew this sketch?
My witness.
You did?
Yes, sir.
What relationship are you to the...
I'm a friend. I'm also a neighbor of the defendant. I live in house number... If I could see the sketch, please. House number 3. Defendant is house number 2. I was that evening awoken by a commotion outside, and I ran to the window, and I was looking outside my window, which is indicated on the sketch.
Yes.
And what I saw was...
How far away were you from what you saw?
I would say approximately 30 yards, sir.
All right. And what did you see?
I saw the defendant running from the house. He went towards the street where some broken blocks were resting. He grabbed a block, raised it over his head in a forceful manner, and thrusted it against the plaintiff's vehicle. And
thrusted against the vehicle?
Yes, sir. The pictures indicate the damage of
What
the
do you
vehicle.
mean, thrusted against the vehicle?
He raised it up over his head, and in a manner that, would be a baseball pitcher's pitch at about 100 miles an hour.
You mean he threw it?
Threw it, right, at the vehicle.
Okay.
At this time, I saw the plaintiff come out of his vehicle and approach the individual. And
you're saying that the defendant threw that brick at the plaintiff's vehicle before the plaintiff got out of his car?
Well, at the time that I had gotten to the commotion, there might have been something going on beforehand because I was awoken, but this is the part that I did see visually.
Did you run out? Did you leave the house?
No, sir. I was in my pajamas.
What time was it?
It was approximately 12 o'clock, 11:30 a.m.
Okay. Right. Anything else you...
Yes, sir. Then I saw the defendant point to the plaintiff here in a manner such as this. I could not see exactly what he was holding in his hands. Then the plaintiff got in his vehicle and sped away. At that time, I thought the altercation was over, but then the police arrived.
Did you ever see the plaintiff hit the defendant?
No, sir.
Okay. How big are you?
6'6", 265.
Did you stop him driving down the street?
No, sir.
No?
I had a friend that was spending the night at my house, and his car was the only car parked in front of my house that night. I lived at 4733, which is number 2 house. We went out to lock his car and roll up the windows.
Pardon me?
We went out about midnight to roll up his windows and lock his car because he was going to spend the night. As we stepped off the curb, this Dodge van come by at an estimated speed of well over 60 miles an hour because he was about 3-4 houses down the street before he stopped and backed up.
What did you do to make? Did you do something to make him stop and back up?
No, sir. Dave and I was speaking to ourselves, rolling up his windows. I never even got to the window. I walked out from behind his car as he came by.
Where's this fellow Dave now?
He's at work.
Do you have an affidavit from him?
No, he's got a statement in the police report.
Well, I'll look at that.
Anyway, as I stepped off the curb, he came by. He backed up, belligerent and intoxicated, and started giving us obscenities. At that time, I told him this was a residential area, a 25-mile-an-hour zone. And at that time, he got more belligerent and threatened me with violence. And I told him, don't get out of the car, just go on your way. Well, he got out of the car.
What do you mean he threatened you with violence? What did he say?
He was going to kick this and stomp on that. I'm going to try to keep it clean because he used a lot of obscenities. I was standing in the curb already, about, I'd say, 3 to 4 feet out from the curb. And as he got out of his car, swinging. He swung at me 2-3 times and kicked at me, took a karate stance before he popped me in the chin.
Who do you think is telling the true story of what went on that night, the plaintiff or the defendant? We'll hear more after this.
Remember the song, This Joint is Jumpin'? Well, at 4:30, our newscast is. We will give you the mayor live talking about the problem of miscast ballots at the polls. A court suit has been launched to try and correct that. There are reports of record voter turnout and questions about who that turnout will benefit. And on top of all of the election news, Norman Mark will be talking about who should win an Oscar for Best Actress. We'll have full weather and sports reports. We hope that you'll join Ron Majors and me for the Channel 5 News at 4:30.
At iLab, the complete eyewear eye care center, you'll see the difference we make. At Eye Exam, we offer a state-of-the-art examination. You'll see more frames in every style and every price. You'll see your glasses made in our own lab. They're usually ready in 2 hours and are guaranteed against breakage for 1 year. iLab, you'll see the difference we make. Now open in Lansing and Melrose Park.
Cold. Take yourself far away to a Tampa sun, a Gulf beach, and beyond. Busch Gardens. As far away as you can feel. Busch Gardens, Tampa, Florida.
Don't you yearn to go where the sun still shines? Find a quiet spot by the waterline. Close your eyes, recline, soak up the sunshine.
Fly United to the sun. More nonstops at more low fares to more sunspots than anybody. Let United take you where you yearn to go.
We are your sunshine. Shine on friendly skies.
When we left, the defendant was explaining how the plaintiff jumped out of his car swinging at him.
And I stepped back up on the curb. As soon as I got up on the curb, he popped me in the chin, which split me open about 4 stitches worth. And at that time, I yelled to my wife to call the police. I wasn't aware of the fact that she was in the shower at this time and didn't call the police. So I ran in to call the police myself after we wrestled with this brick. This guy went over...
What do you mean after you wrestled with the brick?
Okay, after he popped me in the chin, we're both up on the parking. Now, the parking's about 4 foot of grass area from the curb, and then we've got sidewalk. Now, my house and both neighbors on each side are the only people that's got sidewalks on that street. Okay? He ran over at that time in rage and grabbed the cap. I've got a picture of the fence so you can get an idea of what this post looks like. It's a wrought iron fence, and he grabbed this red cap and pulled it off. Now, to my knowledge, that cap had been cemented down 8 to 9 years or longer, because that fence was there when I bought the home. Okay? He grabbed that. He came to throw it at me. At this time, I backed away, which put his vehicle behind me and him on this side. As he threw it at my shins, I backed up. The brick then shattered into maybe a half a dozen pieces, and part of it bounced up and did hit the side of his van.
Let me ask you, Mr. Harmon, there's a red brick on top of a fence there. Is that the brick you're talking about? Was that brick taken off of there?
I don't know if it was that particular one, but yes, that is his fence. Yes, it is.
Is that where he got the brick?
Yes, sir.
Had you been drinking that night?
No, sir. I just got done playing basketball.
Nothing to drink at all?
Nothing to drink. I had...
Where were you playing basketball?
Over at Northview High School, which is located right around the corner from where I was at, where this took place.
Your Honor, the only indication of a firearm, as it mentioned, was after I told him I was running in to call the police, I had no shirt on. All I had on was a pair of slacks, and I was bleeding from my chin down, wrecked the slacks. I mean, they were totally soaked with blood. I called 911 and got the sheriffs on the line because we're in the county of Covina. Why, I was speaking to the sheriffs because he had threatened to come back with a gun. The only mentions of a gun was his threat.
You own a gun?
No, I do not. Anyway, the police had arrested him coming back down northbound again at the other end of the street back to my house while I was still talking to him on 911, and they said that we have him in custody.
Were you arrested?
No, I was not arrested, Your Honor.
Were you stopped by the police?
I was stopped by... I pulled over. In fact, I came around the block. I went to call the police, and when I came around the block, I saw a police officer head northbound on Conwell with his lights off, and then I pursued after the police officer. I pulled up on the side of the police officer where they pulled me out of the car. They searched my vehicle completely and found no guns. I've never owned a gun, and I don't even use guns.
Yes. Now, are you about 5'7"?
I'm 5'7", 160 pounds.
Is your left hand, I know this is...
Yeah, it was amputated when I was 13 years old.
Can you use it to fight?
No, I cannot.
Let me see your other hand. When did you start playing basketball that night?
When? Yeah. Probably about, we play from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock.
8 to 9?
Yeah.
What were you doing between 9 and time this happened?
I tell you the truth, Your Honor, it's been a while. I don't exactly... I got the police report there. Exactly what time was it? Probably about 10:30?
It was midnight.
11?
Midnight.
I don't know exactly what time it was.
It was midnight. They hauled... We were out
when I asked you